Hey, welcome back to a another episode 2, I guess, of Rambles of a Mad Lamb. Because who else would do this in the middle of the night? Um, to be fair though, they're like kids in the neighborhood who play, and I feel like it's just much better to record at night. At least in my case, because I'm up anyway. Today or tonight, we're gonna talk about Ruben, according to the thumbnail that I drew ahead of time, like I was supposed to. We're talking about Ruben today. Ruben Luminous. Okay, tell me that's not. Come on, tell me that's not a good name. Come on. We're talking about Ruben, the little cult leader I mentioned in Emily's episode. Her bestie, if you will. So sit back, relax, and this is a friendly circle we have going on here. All right, be generous with the supply that we have. We're here to have a good time. All right, and hopefully in the process stay a long time. Heyo. So I think I took a little bit of a pause to think about how I wanted to start this off. I think I liked what I did last time by giving you guys a little bit of history, and then moving on to the current story that I have planned for them, which is awesome. So yeah, like I said previously, Ruben was a part of a batch of characters I essentially made a long time ago. Ruben's history is a little complicated because maybe I shouldn't have started with this trio, on God, but whatever, it's too late. We've already begun. Ruben's whole thing is that he is a mortal reincarnation of a version of himself that's from hold on. I'm already getting into it. I feel like it's necessary to explain though. But either way, there's a lot of tomfuckery behind the Grand One, or Ruben, I guess you can say, or Ruben. He's so complicated for absolutely no reason, and I think he would prefer it to stay that way, if I'm being frank. I think that's his favorite part about himself, is that he feels like he's so complicated and beyond mortal comprehension, I think is the right word. Oh god, that was loud. But yeah, which feeds into his character, but we're gonna get into that. So like I kind of said about Ruben's identity, is that he is a reincarnation of the Grand One. Reincarnation? Why would you say that? You'll have to read to find out when I'm done with the book. Don't ask me when. I'm a first time writer. I'm trying to figure it out as I go, and maybe I'll talk about that in another video. Talk about my toe dip in the book, in like novel and writing and stuff, whatever. Not the place. So Ruben has been a part of every incarnation of, I don't know if you heard me hit my desk, every incarnation of God is corrupt. I mean, he's like the big bad. Yeah, you know, like he's very important. Without him, the story would kind of fall apart. Or, you know, or it just wouldn't make sense to change him. Again, as due to the name of this trio, they're all antagonists. And, you know, they're all antagonists. I you know, I just realized I can't really explain him without doing a video of his own. So, look out for the Grand One video whenever I decide to get to him. Hello. So, it's been about 48 hours. As you see, the drawing looks a little different, and that's because OBS decided to be a bitch. And, OBS decided to be a bitch and not let me know that my screen went black, aka I didn't look, and it took me 2 days to figure out how to fix it. Yeah. So I just decided to butt myself in here. But anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay, thank you. Despite the Luminous's last name, they did not live a life of luxury, of silver spoons and mouths, and all the privileges in the world that they could ask for, especially here in the mortal realms. No, they didn't have any of that. They were a humble farm family way out in the countryside of what I imagine, at least, to be a more typical medieval fantasy version of our world. And these folks wanted more than anything to have a child of their own. A child that will continue on the name, will inherit the farm, to grow up in community and kindness. But they couldn't. At least not for a while. They've tried everything from clerics to monks. Anybody who could talk to the gods. Whichever, at this point, I mean, at the time of the story, there are many gods out there. Many different religions, many walks of divine life. They just wanted one to answer their prayers. But it wasn't until one very starry night that their lives would change. For better or for worse, they suppose. Following the northern star, seemingly brighter than it normally is, it felt like they were being not led astray, but they were being led away from their home. They traveled for days without rest. It wasn't until they finally got to where they needed to be. It was in front of a statue a headless statue. Clearly a god, but which one they wouldn't know. There was no face. But something about the air was whimsical. Fey, even. The stars were bright, practically helping the moon illuminate itself. It was beautiful. But why were they led here? And that's when they see her. The statue is no longer there, and instead, an elven woman. Long white hair, very familiar to those who know of her already. AKA my wife and most of our friends. Her friends. She stood there tall, compassionate, quiet. It was definitely a sight to behold. It's not often that gods even step foot on mortal realms. Last time that happened, there was a giant war. Or at least, that's what's rumored. Some say it was a war. Some say it was more of a, environmental crisis. Either way, something happened. I mean, they wouldn't be at this point in technology if they were, if nothing happened. But again, they pleaded with the god that they saw before them, the little goddess. And they asked for a child. At least one. And I think, and this will make sense later, which I definitely know for sure her video's coming out in March. This technically isn't allowed. She's breaking a lot of rules to do this. But she can guarantee them a child. However, it is not one of their blood. This child needed teachers, mentors, community. It needed a proper, happy life away from the true evil sins of the world, to bask in light that is filled with love and hope. Of course, they took the deal. A child in exchange for one of not of their species? Sure. They were desperate. They agreed without any other further questions. If, this goddess was willing to help them, who are they to question it, And that's what's so finicky about gods and mortals and their relationships. At least for some out there. Because if it were me, I wouldn't trust that for even a minute. You're telling me an elven woman just randomly shows up in front of a faceless statue in the middle of nowhere. Like, come on. That's a murder waiting to happen. But as goes the story of mortals, I guess. always willing to take from the gods as long as they benefit. No one is truly absolved of their sins. You can't erase actions and consequences. And I think that's important, especially in this case. Because even though you have the purest intentions, even if it's wanting a child of your own, are you ready for the consequences? Especially of a deal like this? You don't know what you're getting into. Like, first of all, if someone tried to tell me that they can get me a human baby, that's already weird, you know? Like, but now you're telling me it's not even of my species, and it might be like, and if we're going with the context clues, if this is a divine baby, then what the fuck are we doing here? You know? But for the story to work, they have to be desperate, so you know. I'm just a good writer. Anyway, bada bing, bada boom, Ruben is born into the world. Hooray! And because I know I'm gonna be successful at this, if you quickly pay your attention behind me, if you weren't already looking at it, I am currently drawing Ruben in what he looks like, okay? I already think you notice the wings where his ears should be. Oh god. Excuse me. And you know, you see like the freaky eye shit that he just perpetually has. Yeah. He came out definitely and not a species they were familiar with. And this caused some problems. Because kids are fucking mean, okay? Kids, especially young ones, they are ruthless. They live by epic Poseidon's rules is ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Yeah, they follow that shit. Alright, that's their like morning mantra type shit. And Ruben was bullied a lot, but his parents insisted that he was just special, that he was meant for greater things. They essentially unintentionally planted the seeds to the downfall. Because, yeah, even though these people were awful, he'd show them one day. Because he's gonna get stronger and powerful and way beyond any type of whatever the fuck. You know what I mean. Like, he fully believes that he is gonna one day either enslave or kill them all, if I'm being frank. Hold on, please. Please bear with me. Please bear with me. So, Ruben ended up, you know, low-key developing a god complex. Which, can you get a god complex if you're a god? Let me know. Let me know. I want to hear both sides of the argument, alright? Because even I don't know. But I would love to know if people probably don't think about these things. That's just me being high, I guess. But yeah. Ruben doesn't like his life on the farm. He's far from happy here. With each passing year, it feels like it's just this endless cycle of waking up, working from like before the sunrise to the afternoon for lunch, and then working up until dinner, having maybe like 20 minutes of free time, and going right back to sleep, or even just going straight to sleep if the day was really exhausting. He hated it here. He wanted out. He wanted to travel, wanted to see what the world beyond the farm was like. Plus, business has been slow the more and more Ruben grew up, because he was seen. People didn't like him. The people who bullied him are grown up and have way more authority and influence, while he's stuck here in his own personal hell. So what does he do about it? I'll tell you what he does. He gets rid of the problem. Permanently. Yeah, I went there. I fucking went there. He fucking murdered these people that raised his ass in cold blood. Alright, that motherfucker was like, I'm never coming back to this. You're like, no one. No, like you're not gonna stop me. I don't want to say like nobody would ever know about him, because like he literally grew up with all these people. He has been seen in the community. But I think that was his way of sending a message to them that he was dangerous. He was kind enough to let them know by committing murder, you know what I mean? He's not fucking around no more. And so, he follows his own path. And throughout his travels, he's, usually looking for shelter, trying to haggle with prices, so on and so forth. But every now and again, he'll come by some temple that's been long forgotten. Maybe he'd break into a couple of churches every now and again. Just reading what he can find, learning, speculating about the other gods he's found throughout the continent. But it wasn't until one day he came across very, very abandoned, very overgrown church. It was massive. It was not like cathedral massive, more like old haunted asylum kind of massive. That's how big the church is. He's going, and Ruben goes through, takes a couple walks around. Maybe there was something left behind here. It looked fucked. But as he's exploring, things are happening. Noises, whispers. He wasn't really much of a much of a spirit, like paranormal person. But who is he to deny the call to adventure? So he follows. And it leads him to an office. Well, it went over there, but there was one thing he found before he got into the office. The room that he was being guided to on his way there is essentially kind of the main part of the church. You know, where you have like your pews, the stage, the podium that a priest would speak at. But he's in here. And in the far back, it's a statue that's been covered in dust, rocks. It looks damaged, but it's of a man. Maybe similar build to Ruben. Long hair. Cold eyes. And the wings on the side of his head. As on his back were 3 pairs of wings. This was a god that had been long forgotten about by now in this time. Everybody was so used to the current gods that they forgot about one. Off to the room, to the side of this room, or off to the side of this room, there's like a door. That's where the office is. The door opens by itself. And as Ruben goes inside, he's meted with a singular book on the floor. An old grimoire. Something of his that has been long forgotten. But this wasn't Ruben's book. Hell, he didn't even have a grimoire. But now he does. And who is also there, hiding within the midst of the starlight coming in through the window? I think you know who. It was time for his end of the bargain, as once agreed to. And much like before, he was given an offer he just couldn't refuse. Help this young woman get her beauty back, and in return she'd help him become the god he was meant to be. Now, Ruben is a very smart man, but I think his desire for godhood, to be even the chance, even the 1% chance that this could work. Being a god means he can have everything he could possibly want. Power, control, authority, to literally be the bigger man. And to have all the power he can have just to smite somebody who disagrees with him. I think that hunger was Like, it was insane. And he overtook him. So obviously he took the deal. I'm not gonna get into it too much further. This is essentially where he then starts going on his little quest as he's traveling, going through this book, him like learning how to like perform spells, miracles, and stuff like that. He's also become a cult leader. Follow the name of the Grand One, the one forgotten god. And honestly, I think this is a very big improvement from how he is. You will see the Grand One in Goddess Corrupt. It's just kind of, it has to happen. But how do I explain this? Because I don't even know how to put this into words. Because there's so much that goes into it, and I don't want to like spill it all out, because I do want to share it narratively. And I think it'll make the most sense if it's, you know, when you read it. Or have your own interpretation, I guess, of the scenes I have in mind. I don't know. But the funny side is more so that, you know, he's... Obviously, it didn't start off great. He's desperate. You know, he has to build his charisma, his reputation, you know, all this other crazy stuff. And that's how he meets Emily, who came in for a confession, and hearing her story, yeah. I think, and I've had some time to think about this, I think when he hears Emily's story, it's more of like, yeah, because from how it sounds to me, it sounds like she was just trying to manipulate you. The moment you lowered your guard to her, you were gonna be fucked. And I think Emily hearing her thoughts out of somebody else kind of drew her closer to him. And that's, guys, I'm cooking. Do you see the pot? It is, I'm about to stir the mac and cheese. Alright, like, we about to put this bitch in the oven. Anyway. This might be a shorter video, but I think I gotten what I want to say out of it. Yeah. Well, I hope you liked this more storytelling approach. Yeah, I hope you like it. I'm trying something new. We'll figure out format one day or another. Alright. Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of the Ruben drawing in case it goes over me talking. Goodbye. And have a good night. Ming.